Chapter 15, The Goat and I. There was one spring when everything seemed nice. It came early and stayed late, so that you got out of the baseball stuff a month ahead of schedule and started to think about fishing and summer vacation, all in one bundle. And in addition to fishing and vacation, I started to plague everybody for a pony. I had read nearly all of Mr. Zane Grey's cowboy stories, and I was horse-minded. The old man was pretty unimpressed with my Riders of the Purple Stage. He did not care for horses very much. A horse, he said, is the dumbest animal I know, and he takes a power of looking after. He's got to be fed and watered and curried and combed. He's always knocking a fetlock on the stall or something, and you need the vet to come running every whip stitch. He had to be looked after like a baby. I don't know if you've got enough concentration to look after an animal that big after the first interest is in getting throwed off him has dwindled down. Also, you know, the old man said, his stall has to be cleaned and his saddle polished and his blankets aired. He needs fresh straw and he eats a mountain of hay and oats. And he has to be walked to get himself cooled out after you've run him hard. You got to watch his hooves and take him to the blacksmith. You got a bicycle. What do you need with a horse? I muttered something about every boy ought to have a horse, just like every boy ought to have a dog. The old man snorted. He said that pretty soon I'd be telling him that every boy ought to have an automobile, and that someday I'd be arguing that every boy ought to have an airplane. Tell you what, he said, a horse is too large an investment for an unproven ability. We will just sort of try you out on a goat. Anybody that'll look after a goat and cart will be a likely candidate for a pony because nothing is quite as ornery as a billy goat. I know where there's one for sale. He's a real handsome goat if you like goats, and I'll knock you together a cart and make you some harness. We went to a place called Foxtown where the colored people lived, and we stopped at the home of Albert Gray, the big colored boy who worked in the yard and told me fascinating stories to avoid doing any more work than he had to. Albert's aunt owned a goat. The goat was for sale for $5. He was a real good-looking goat, young, fawn-colored, with a black stripe down his back, neat little black hooves, and a white star on his forehead. His horns weren't mature yet and hadn't curved out, and he had a forehead that was rock hard. He had the worst disposition of anything or anybody I ever met. We dragged, and I mean drug, Billy home, and he was protesting every inch of the way. He didn't want to leave Foxtown. He was happy in Foxtown, living under the house and eating anything that crossed his view. He did not want to go live with the white folks. We dragged him and penned him up in the cow lot. The first thing he did was charge the cow, to the intense surprise of the cow. It was a big old creamy yellow Jersey with big horns, but that pint-sized he-goat had her scared stiff in 5 minutes. We left Billy glaring at us through the fence and went off to see about the cart. The old man brought the tools out, and we got a big packing box and converted it into the body. The old man found some wheels somewhere, and we mounted her on the wheels, stuck some shafts on her, and painted her red, and she was a very handsome cart. Then he got some leather thongs and some buckles from the hardware store, and produced a fine harness. He even made me a small whip. You'll need it, he said, kind of mean. A goat takes a lot of explaining to. The old man said that any boy fit to own a horse and ride the range would have to train the critter himself, because no cowpoke worth his salt would ride a horse somebody else had broken. The same, he said, applied to a goat. I'd have to break Billy myself so that Billy would respect me and be a one-man goat. In later years, I began to suspect there was a lot of evil humor in the old man. Bright and early the next day, I set out to break Billy to his proper role of beast of burden. I went down to the cow lot and jumped over the fence, and Billy charged me like a lion. He hit me square in the stomach with that knobby skull, and I went over, all the breath knocked out of me. Billy backed off, sort of roared, and came again like a cannonball. This time I got out of his way, ran him down, got a stranglehold on his neck, grabbed an off leg like I'd read the cowhands bulldozed a steer, and spilled him on his side. He lay there on the ground and hated me with his cold yellow eyes. Well, sir, trying to put a halter and harness on that darn goat was a sight to see. I know it was a sight to see, because a few minutes later, when I was red-faced and sweating and as mad at the goat as the goat was mad at me, I heard a chuckle. There was the old man leaning on the fence and laughing so hard that tears were streaming down his face and running into his mustache. I don't think you're going at this exactly right, he said. but I'm danged if I can tell you what you're doing wrong, unless it's that you ain't got but 2 hands and need 6. Wait a minute, I'll help you hook him up. Somehow, between us, we wrestled the ornery beast into the harness and then tried to lead him to the cart. He sat down on his behind and braced his back legs, and we pulled on the reins. His eyes popped and he started to choke, but he didn't follow. He wasn't a very big goat, and the old man finally picked him up in his arms and toted him to where the cart was. Then we tried to back him between the shafts. I heard somewhere about the camel in the eye of the needle, and a camel had a cinch to get through. Getting this goat backward into the shafts was like trying to thread a needle with a snake. He blatted and kicked and butted and wiggled, but we finally got him in and secured, we thought, with the little harness on his shoulders and the reins threaded. I got into the cart and cracked a tiny little whiplash and hollered, "Yee-haw," or some such. The goat looked around at me with the purest, most undistilled hatred I ever seen in my eyes and promptly lay down. We would drag him to his feet, and as soon as I got into the cart, he would lay down again, and then we started to twist and turn, and before long the harness looked like a backlash on a fishing line. Billy looked pleased. The old man shrugged. "I think that's enough for one day," he said. "We don't want to rush this training. Let's drag him back to the cow lot, and we'll have another shot at him tomorrow." We had another shot at him tomorrow, and it was the same old thing. This was a goat who wouldn't gee, wouldn't haw, wouldn't lead, wouldn't be dragged, wouldn't get up when he was laying down, and wouldn't lie down if he happened to want to stand up. He wouldn't go through the gate in the cow lot, which was a low fence, so I just simply took to throwing him over the fence. I had heard about Milo of Crotona in school, and I reckoned by the time Billy was a full-grown goat, I could still heave him over the fence. I wasn't sure where Crotona was, but if Milo could heft a bull full-grown by starting out with him as a calf, I wasn't going to be backed down by any damn Billy goat. We worked on that goat for 3 months, and he never gave an inch. We had to battle to get him in the harness and battle to get him out of it. We had to run him down and catch him to get him out of the cow lot, and we had to throw him back like a fish when we were done with him. I was getting no mileage and no amusement out of this goat at all. Then one day I found out by accident that this goat was a true warrior. He loved to butt and to eat anything that was regarded as inedible, but he had another vice too. He loved to wrestle. He would rear up on his hind legs and charge, and when I grabbed him, he'd twist and turn and do his level best to throw me. Fighting was the only thing he took any interest in, except food. The wrestling wore a little thin after a while, because if a boy wants to wrestle, he might as well find another boy, and anyhow, my mother was beginning to complain about my smell. This was a complete billy goat, including smell. I tried everything I knew in way of kindness to gentle him, and all I got was that yellow goatish glare. It isn't any fun to live with something that hates you and won't work even a little bit for his board and keep, so finally we took Billy in the Liz and returned him to Foxtown. He let out a happy blat when he saw his old home and promptly dived under the house when we turned him loose. I must have looked pretty downcast because the old man stopped at Cox's store and bought me a soft drink and a nickel's worth of candy. When we went on home, he said, "Don't feel too upset. There are some things, some dogs, some goats, some people, that ain't worth troubling over. You can feed 'em and gentle 'em and worry over 'em and coax 'em and try to teach 'em, but they'll stay obstinate, right on like that damn goat. After a while, when you see it ain't any use, the only thing to do is give up. The thing is to know when to give up. Not too early, not too late." I didn't say anything. "You still want a horse?" the old man asked very gently. "Not this year," I said. "I'm plumb wore out with this cussed goat. This year I'm going to concentrate on fishing. At least I can manage a rowboat." "Now there you are showing signs of sense," the old man said. "No man can do everything well. A lot of men spread themselves out trying this and having a dib and a dab at that, never finishing what they start and always trying to look for something new when they've failed. A smart man knows when he has a few things he can do well, and he's wise to do them, especially when he's failed at something. This gives him time to collect his wits and calm his disappointments, and then he's fit to go off and try something new again. I think the big mouths might be biting tonight if you'd care to try 'em." The big mouths were biting, and pretty soon my hurt feelings and frustrations cooled off, and I wasn't mad at the goat anymore. But I will never forget that animal as long as I live. He put a scar on my self-confidence, and since then I have met a power of people like him. When I run up against a person or a situation that has all the earmarks of Billy, that is when I quit and go fishing. Up to now, it hasn't failed to help.